undeniable.
Perhaps, but why jump to that conclusion in this case just because the asteroid fragments hit at the same latitude?
Well, that's a very, very good question. Let me see if this... Yes. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
All right. 6645 Venturi approached the Earth on a dead-center trajectory for the North Pole. The angles of the three impact sites, A, B, and C, are exactly 45 degrees. Huh. The odds against that happening in nature are something like, 10 to the 58th power.
So, what are you saying?
I'm saying that what we've seen tonight is unnatural. Could it happen at random? Not a chance.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. That was astronomer Robert Perlman, Executive Director of the American Observatory in Kitt Peak, Arizona.
We need to point out for our viewers the danger of speculation at this point. Because of the breaking events tonight, we're bringing you information that's live and unedited.
That's right, Sandy. And viewers should keep that in mind as they watch this next report from Barry Steinbrenner of affiliate KTML in Casper, Wyoming.
A 39-year-old crop duster pilot identified as Dwayne Thomas Haskell was questioned by local law enforcement and Air Force officials tonight and later released after reporting a UFO. The alleged incident occurred as he was landing his plane some 40 miles west of crash site Alpha near Benson, Wyoming.
They ask you about the UFOs, Mr. Haskell. I've already said all I'm going to say. I've already said it.
Why were you in there so long?
I told them Air Force people all I know.
Yeah, but why were you in there so long?
I don't want to discuss it. Get away from my truck!
Since Haskell refuses to talk, we taped this interview with Sheriff's Deputy Anson Peters, the first official to speak with Haskell.
He told me that he was just coming down at around 6:45 after dusting all day. Anyway, Haskell was shaking. I mean, the man was terrified. He said he was just coming in when this thing appeared on his right-hand side, and it followed him a few hundred feet as he landed, and then it streaked across his windshield, and then the thing took off straight up like a shot.
At this point, the pilot Haskell is in seclusion. We checked with the FAA to see if there was anything unusual on radar, and they had no comment. This is Barry Steinbrenner, KTML Action News, Wyoming.
Well, we've just learned that Mr. Haskell has sold his story to the National Enquirer. Though he denies it, the full purchase price is believed to be upwards of $100,000. Well, was there really something up there tonight? We took our cameras outside just moments ago to get reactions.
Do I believe in UFOs? I don't know.
I like the aliens. I like that theory.
I have no doubt that it's a UFO.
I definitely don't think it's UFOs.
Well, see, that to me is just humans' arrogancy to think that everything can be explained with scientific data and information. I mean, for years we've always assumed that there's no life on other planets, but why would they be there? You know, I'm not surprised.
I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't. I don't believe in aliens and stuff like that. No.
All right. As you know, the White House has been noticeably silent in all this. The president's out of the country at the G7 Economic Summit, and for him that may be a blessing. But there's at least one segment of the administration willing to comment on the alleged UFO incident. We go now to National Security Correspondent Mark Manetti at the Pentagon.
Here with me tonight is the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Advanced Technologies, Dr. Norbert Hazelton. Now, Doctor, with NASA's announcement of how the asteroid fragments came in, I suppose that talk of UFOs was inevitable.
Absolutely. They all come out of the woodwork at times like this.
All right, granted the crop duster report has yet to be confirmed, but what about the findings of Dr. Robert Perlman? He's a respected scientist.
Look, there's an irresponsible segment of the scientific community that seems bent on proving the existence of little green men, and that's fine. The problem is that the U.S. has been trying to establish contact for decades to no avail. 7 separate unmanned probes have been launched toward the edge of the galaxy, beaming messages from Earth. There have been more than 1,000 U.S. space shots alone since the 1950s. Another 2,400 by the Russians. 12 men landed on the moon and returned without sightings. We wanted to find them. There was nothing.
What about the geometric pattern of the crashes? I mean, how could something so precise simply be attributed as a natural phenomenon?
Well, I've got just one answer for you. Snowflakes. Hundreds of trillions of them fall to Earth every year, each with an intricate geometric pattern and no two alike. Nature is precise in its randomness, and that is the fascination of it.
Thank you, Doctor. Back to you.
Sandy, with these allegations of UFO involvement, we shouldn't forget the real story here. That the more than 2,000 near-Earth asteroids, still uncharted by NASA, represent a significant threat to the Earth. 2 years ago, during a football game in Peekskill, New York, fans observed this meteorite streak through the sky where it almost destroyed a residential neighborhood. In 1972, an alert photographer in the Grand Teton National Park caught this object as it streaked across the sky at 33,000 miles an hour. With an estimated weight of 1 million pounds, it narrowly missed a campground with thousands of people. And in 1989, an asteroid half a mile wide narrowly missed the planet. The Earth had been directly in line with that giant rock only 6 hours earlier.
You're saying that we were only 6 hours away from catastrophe?
That's right. In fact, after that near miss, a congressional report concluded, quote, had the asteroid struck the Earth, it would have caused a disaster unprecedented in human history.
Doctor, as you know, while government officials continue to insist that tonight's asteroid hits were of natural origin, there's a growing segment of the population who sense something more. And joining us now is Terrence Freeman, author of the recent bestseller, Messengers from Beyond. Mr. Freeman, welcome.
Glad to be here, Sandy.
Mr. Freeman, you've long been a proponent of the theory that intelligent life has visited Earth before, correct?
Oh, there's no question. There are ancient cave drawings showing figures in space helmets, the pyramids, the enormous figures on Easter Island, even the circle at Stonehenge were all built at a time before we had the technical skills to create them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Freeman, but you seem to be denying all human achievement.
Oh, on the contrary, men and women accomplished these things, but they were guided by forces on high. It's axiomatic. You can trace the benchmarks throughout history. They come every few hundred years, and we are long overdue.
Well, there are plenty of responsible scientists who would argue that these asteroids are long overdue. You know, there's a dictum that scientists are taught to follow. It says that when you are faced with an enigma, the best explanation is usually the simplest and most logical one. In this case, asteroids, not aliens.
Forgive me, I've got to interrupt you both. We've just received a disturbing report from correspondent Robert Marino. He's now on the ground near impact site Alpha in Wyoming. Robert?
Sandy, two events in the last 10 minutes have put this asteroid impact in a chilling new light. First, our news chopper and about a half a dozen other aircraft were forced to land when an intense radio signal began jamming our navigational system. Then, after we hit the ground, we began to hear that noise in the background. A loud, pulsating hum coming from the direction of the meteor crater. The decibel level has increased minute by minute to the point where you almost have to scream to be heard.
Bob, can you get any closer to the rim of the crater? Can you get any closer to the rim of the crater? Right.
Right. We'll hear the sound level increase as we move towards the crater. It's eerie. It's a sound unlike anything I've ever heard before. And it's loud. It's painful. In fact, it's absolutely deafening. You can hear me for this, but it's terrible. I can't take it anymore.
The AP is reporting that state police units as far away as Casper, Wyoming, have been picking up that same loud hum on their radios.
And there's this statement just in from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, quote, a persistent audio signal of unknown origin on the edge of the FM band is being emitted from the vortex of the crater, unquote. In other words, that apparently benign piece of space rock is charged electronically and sending out some sort of signal. Matt Jensen has more from Houston.
Officials here at the Johnson Space Center have confirmed that similar radio signals have now been detected, emanating from the Bravo and Charlie impact sites in southern France and in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. There's no official word from NASA, but sources here say that the signals could be natural in origin, the result of what is being described as, quote, a pulsating charged ion field, which developed during the parent asteroid's flight through the atmosphere. We repeat, at this juncture, the word is that the signals are of natural origin. Back to you.
There's some activity at the FAA's Air Traffic System Command in Washington, D.C. We go there now with correspondent Mike Curtis.
Caroline, I'm standing in the Aviation Command Center, where authorities have now confirmed that signals emanating from the asteroid sites have begun to disrupt commercial air traffic. With me now is Facility Manager David Case. David, are you able to shed any light on this situation for us?
Well, traffic has been disrupted across the country, but as you can see on the screen behind me, the problem is most acute at O'Hare in Chicago, Wayne County Airport in Detroit, and the 3 New York City hubs, Newark, JFK, and LaGuardia.
Mr. Case, this is Carolyn Jaffe. 45 degrees north is the very same parallel where the asteroid fragment struck.
Yes, ma'am?
You have any comment on that?
No, I'm afraid I have nothing to say about that at this time. If you'll excuse me, I have to get back to work.
This is Mike Curtis reporting live. Back to you, Caroline.
Thanks, Mike. In a moment, we hope to have more on those mysterious radio signals.
We stress again, we don't yet know the full significance of all this, but one thing is clear. An event that began some 95 minutes ago with few human casualties has now grown into an international air crisis affecting thousands. Our continuing coverage, Asteroid, Fire from the Sky, will return in a moment.
Here, once again, are Dr. Carolyn Jaffe and Sandra Van Oker.
For those of you just joining us now, we are following an ever-widening crisis touched off by the impact tonight of a massive meteor that broke up and fell to Earth. Radio signals from the 3 impact sites are affecting air traffic worldwide, and FAA officials are recommending that people fly tonight only if it's absolutely necessary. We go now to one of the cities hardest hit. Correspondent Ernie Anastas is in New York.
They come here to Times Square, as they always do when the world is in trouble. The Cuban Missile Crisis, the Kennedy assassination, the war in the Gulf, all recorded up on that sign. When you want to take the pulse speed of the planet, few places can give you a reading like New York. Ever since the meteor shower started several hours ago, things we take for granted have been affected. Officials at Newark Airport are reporting delays of up to 3 hours. The situation is worse at LaGuardia, and the 2 runways at JFK have been completely shut down. All New York-bound air traffic was diverted to Boston and Hartford, as interference from the 3 impact sites continues to scramble radar. The only planes moving at LaGuardia were outgoing flights. The resulting gridlock at airports has produced massive traffic jams. This is the Holland Tunnel tonight, and as you can see, traffic backed up with thousands leaving the city by car. Others abandoned their vehicles and rushed into the tunnel trying to get out of the city on foot. New York City 911 Emergency Center is overloaded now and running on backup generators at this hour. The police and fire departments have called in all off-duty personnel during the crisis. And finally, hundreds of people of all denominations jammed St. Patrick's Cathedral tonight for a prayer vigil conducted by Terence Cardinal O'Connell. So, Sandy, here we are at the foot of the tower where the ball drops every New Year's Eve. And if we had stood here last December 31st, looking ahead to 1994, I assure you that no one would have predicted this. Ernie Anastas, Evening World News, New York.
As money markets open now in Asia, there are reports that trading has been suspended on the Hong Kong and Tokyo markets. Scattered power outages have been reported throughout Europe and Asia, but for the most part, people are staying calm, just watching and waiting to see if the unthinkable is possible. Could intelligent life exist elsewhere outside our solar system? And if so, do they have the capability of visiting Earth? Doctor?
Sandy, America is a country that thrives on conspiracy. The very word cover-up is part of our national lexicon, and for close to 5 decades now, tens of thousands of Americans have been convinced of 2 things: that there is something out there, and the government doesn't want us to know. The UFO era began in 1947 when a sheep rancher in Roswell, New Mexico, found fragments of what he said was a flying disc